The tunnels were close tonight. Hot. Every breath felt thick, like the stone itself was sweating. The ant-built structures, no longer icy towers from the moon, had grown rough and dark, shaped from volcanic rock, driftwood, and coral harvested from the mirrored cracks of this realm. Everything felt stitched together, fast and functional, like the ants were preparing for something final. Because they were. They didn't need words. They never had. The Queen's will flowed through them like static across a wire. Even the air hummed with it. Silent movements. Sudden coordination. Something was about to happen. The humans knew it too. But they were no longer in the center. Not even close. The blacksmith was gone. No one saw it happen. Just gone. Taken into the thick-walled structure at the base of the bridge. Not ice. Not metal. Coral, driftwood, and pressure-formed obsidian. Built fast. Guarded. Untouchable. No charges. No warning. No return. Now it was time. Deep in the tunnel network, just past the lava ducts and lightless corridors, the team was gathered for their final split. The plan didn't allow for second guessing. The mirror realm was shifting again. Fury stood with one hand on the wall, staring at nothing. He didn't look up when he spoke. Once we're in and hit the palace, they'll assume it's just a diversion. That's the play. But they won't realize. He stopped. A rare thing. They won't realize we're gonna blow the whole thing, blow the moon back to where it belongs. He didn't explain it further. He wasn't talking about logistics. He was talking about weight, gravity, balance. Stepped in, her boots clicking against the heat-warped stone. Let me switch. Me and Riot. I'll go with Grandpa. I'm ready for the fight. Shook his head. No. You've both been training in separate arcs for weeks. The timing's precise. You switch now, you mess up everything. She didn't argue, not really, but her jaw clenched like she wanted to punch the timeline. Glad shifted beside them, her snake leg coiling tighter under her coat, her eyes locked onto Fury like she was waiting for something. That helper ant, the one with the busted wing, think it's still with us? Fury didn't look at anyone. He didn't check over his shoulder, because it wasn't there. I don't know, he said. Haven't seen it since we left the east flank. But if it's still out there, I think it got enough of the plan to know what to look for. You think? I hope, Fury said. We can't control it, but if it sees the chance, it'll act. That's all we've got. That was the truth. No command chain, no backup signal, just belief in a moment, and in something that might not even be watching anymore. The ground shook faintly beneath their boots. Somewhere above, a structure began to shift. It had already begun. Flame. Lower tunnels, near the divide. Fury ran his fingers along the junction wall where the two paths split. Coral dust flaked off in his palm. The deeper tunnel curled left, toward the birthing chambers. The other stretched long and flat, likely toward the throne complex. We don't know where she is, Riot said, wiping sweat from his brow. You want to gamble left? Fury didn't answer. He pulled the timer from his pack. We're not gambling. We're cornering. He knelt at the fork, setting the first charge cluster right in the throat of the junction. Not meant to bury her alive, just to seal the route behind them. Once they made their move, no doubling back. She's either in the birthing chamber, or she'll hear the breach and come running. Either way, she won't get past this point once it's lit. So we choose left, Riot said, nodding. And if she's on the right, then the fireworks make sure she stays. Click, timer set. 10 minutes. We move, Fury said. Fast. They headed left toward the chamber, the soft blue blink of the fuse behind them fading like a heartbeat. Meanwhile, northern nursery vaults. Kalm followed Glad low through the wide, sloped corridors that buzzed faintly with warmth and moisture. These weren't storage vaults anymore. They were nurseries. Dozens of egg clusters glowed with internal life. Around them moved figures, not ants, not guards. Humans. Old, young, tired-looking, none chained. Some carried buckets of nectar, others sorted shards of driftwood and coral. They weren't prisoners, they were caregivers. They're helping raise them, Kalm whispered. I don't think they even know who they're working for, Glad muttered. Or they stopped asking. Behind the eggs, partially hidden, a familiar silhouette leaned against a pillar. The blacksmith, alive, sweaty, watching. But before Kalm could call out, movement. On the far end of the room, near a line of shaded sacks, the winged ant stepped into view. Its wings still bent, but it walked with slow, deliberate intent. It didn't approach. It didn't alert anyone. It just turned its head and locked eyes with Glad. No hostility, no warning. Just something old. Something familial. A whisper passed through her, louder than thought. "Don't kill them," Glad said, her voice dry. "What?" Kalm blinked. "These aren't enemy spawn. This is the first generation born naturally in cycles, in ages. These are my siblings." Kalm didn't say anything, just looked around the room again, with new eyes. The eggs, the humans, the ant. This wasn't a factory. It was a future. And they were right in the middle of it, holding fire. Nursery vaults, quiet but tense. Kalm crouched behind a coral cluster, eyes darting between the egg sacs and the steady rhythm of the humans tending to them, refilling feeding cones, cleaning the floor with woven bark cloths. It was a cycle, mechanical but not cruel, just structured. Glad was still staring in the direction where the winged ant had gone. "We can't change the plan," Kalm whispered. "But what if we make it look like a hostage rescue? Jailbreak. We bust everyone out. Say they were forced to work." Glad glanced toward a second chamber. She recognized more faces now. Townspeople. Farmers, the library keeper, that stubborn lady who ran the pickle stand. All people who'd refused to cooperate when the Ant Alliance offered work. "They weren't taken because they were threats," Glad muttered. "They were taken because they wouldn't say yes." The air crackled. The winged ant reappeared, standing beside the humans. Not as a leader, but as a warning. It raised a limb, subtle. Then it spoke, not in words, but gesture and antennae pulse, and Glad translated in a breath. "If you send the moon back this way, if the shift happens from here, the ocean floods the town," Kalm finished. "It crushes the builders still working on the foundations." They hadn't thought about that. Or if they had, they'd hoped the angle was clean enough to avoid it. Then buzz. Low and rising. A signal passed through the hive like a ripple of pressure. Every ant stopped, then turned. One by one, they began gently herding the humans outside. Not in panic, but urgency. Orders were being followed. An event had begun. Glad and Kalm moved fast to follow. Tunnels. Too quiet. Fury and Riot moved through the chamber, blades drawn, but it was wrong. "This place hasn't even been used yet," Riot whispered, scanning the room. "We guessed wrong. There were eggs, but none hatched. No pheromone clouds. No warmth." Fury didn't waste time. He turned back, eyes scanning the wall curvature. "She's in the throne room. She staged us." They retraced fast, sticking to the heat shadows and shallow dips. No talking now. Just silent advance. They crept in low, crawling behind the coral lattice arch at the rear of the chamber. The throne bench towered over them, massive, smoothed by time, marked with ceremonial carvings like a fossilized centipede. Behind it, a balcony. And beyond that, a gathering. Hundreds, maybe more, of the Queen's elite caste stood facing forward in rigid reverence. Their chitin shimmered gold and oil black under pulsing light. At the center, standing alone, her back to them, was the Queen. Motionless, watching something beyond the balcony. Ritual-like. "She's here," Riot breathed. "We have her." "Not yet," Fury warned. And then, boom, a deep, pressure-rippling explosion shook the tunnel behind them, the exact fork they'd sealed earlier. Every elite ant turned. One motion, one instinct. Their heads all snapped toward the sound and toward the throne behind them, where Fury and Riot stood frozen in full view. The Queen didn't turn, not right away. Fury coughed, shrugged. "Pretty sure I doubled the timer again. That was supposed to go off a while ago." And then, she turned. Tunnel junction. Outside the nursery complex. The bombs went off in a muffled roar, controlled, directional, effective. The remaining ants guarding the nursery rushed toward the outer exits. But even as they moved, Kalm paced hard in the shadows, punching her fist into her palm. "Again, I'm not in the fight again." Glad was already watching the doors, snaketail twitching. "It's not over yet." Just then, a worker ant carrying a stack of feeding cones rounded the corner and froze, facing 4 humans, including one with a glowing magma snake tail. Its antennae twitched once. Seconds later, boom, smash, crack! 3 doorways at once exploded inward. 3 berserker guardian ants barreled in. One, too large to fit, broke the stone to enter. One was fast. One was just wrong. Its body twisted like it grew in the wrong order and kept going anyway. Too strong. "One fast," Kalm said. "Take the fast one first," Glad barked, then confused the brutes. Kalm nodded, already tightening her boots. Let's see how it goes. Glad whipped her magma snake tail in a violent arc, slamming the ball of molten weight into one giant ant's face. The impact rang like a forge bell. The snake spun with her, coiling wildly, wrapping around the second brute's compound eyes. Both stumbled, disoriented, sluggish. The fast one stopped and gulped. Now we're talking, Kalm grinned, swinging her three-headed warhammer like she was playing whack-a-mole on legend difficulty. The fast one zipped past her first swing, barely. Glad hissed, pulled out a different-colored vial, and drank it. Blue lightning crackled over her skin instantly. Let's see how fast you really are. Meanwhile, the throne balcony. Fury and Riot stood against the tide. 100 elite ants now surrounded them. Every warrior focused, patient, methodical, Fury in motion, never slowed. He wielded 2 sharpened pincer claws like sabers, ducking under limbs, jumping on backs, flipping from one shoulder to the next. Powder flew everywhere. Riot blinked, coughing, a strange scent. Grandpa, what the hell are you throwing? Baking soda. You're spreading baking soda all over the enemy? Yup. Why? Had some cooks stash it in a brick. Blacksmith helped. Always have a backup plan. Okay, but why baking soda? Then it happened. The powder spread in the air. It got everywhere. The ants started to notice. They tried wiping it off each other, confused, irritated. Then, hissoming. Bubbles out of joints, eyes, mouths, vents. Some began falling, slipping. One began to vibrate and collapsed in silence, leaking pink mist. Oh, Riot gagged. They don't burp or fart. Grandpa, what the hell? How? Ants don't burp or fart. Acid reaction, son. You're welcome. Then, the queen. She entered from the far arch. Her shadow alone made the air go still. Her mouth open, not to speak, but wide, in a way that made your sternum throb. A low vibration rippled through the room like someone screaming underwater. Fury stiffened. Then, she turned her gaze directly on Riot, eyes locked. Her body shook with emotion. Rage, fear, something older, and then, for the first time since the occupation began, she spoke. Her voice was high, piercing, like glass under pressure. What are you wearing? Everyone froze. Do you really think, she hissed, you can wear the skin of the gods and get away with it? Riot blinked. Wait, what? And then Fury tackled him. Hard. They hit the stone floor mid-sentence. Fade to black. Let me know, if a tree falls in the forest, but no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound? If a story is never listened to, did it ever exist? Can you break a promise you made to no one? Last time, I said it would end here. Or did I? No one ever watched to know for sure. Is something unfinished or incomplete if no one ever knew it existed? With one sentence, the story could be over and done. But with the next, it was just a nightmare. Don't worry. Or maybe the nightmare is reality, and it's just begun. So how do I pick a direction? Do I? There was no warning, no swell of music or final villainous monologue. Just the Queen's death. Sudden. Unceremonious. And then, silence. A pause. And in that space, right where the story should have moved forward, something else happened. A single eyeball peeked through the proverbial curtain. The curtain itself said fourth wall in looping gold script, like the label on a backstage dressing room. Then a hand emerged. Then a man. He stepped out, brushing imaginary lint off a jacket that was probably never drawn. Looked dead at us. Hi, he said casually, like he was interrupting a group chat. I'm Mac Movement. Just wanted to step in right here and say, this part? Right here? This is where, if it were up to me, I'd be getting help. Real community help. Votes. Collaborators. Brainfire-style finishing moves. He gestured around vaguely. Should I go with the obvious? Should I not switch it up? Should I go dark? Stay campy? He sighed. But it's just me. So till then, I guess I gotta wing it. And if it's a bad ending? He shrugged with that tired smile only the exhausted creatives wear. Well, maybe that's kinda your fault. You're the one running late. I've been here. He vanished behind the curtain. The gold letters shimmered, then dissolved, and we were back in the chaos. Kalm was furious. No, beyond that, she was incandescent. Rage with legs. With every swing of her three-headed warhammer, she got more angry, not less. Not because she was missing. No, she never missed. But these berserker ants, already half deranged from whatever cocktail had been bubbling out of their mushroom armor, weren't going down. not even flinching. And ever since Aunt Glad had slurped down that electric blue lightning concoction and zipped off like a caffeine comet, Kalm had given up on plans entirely. Plans were for chumps. It was hammer time. She swung at one ant, caught its center mass, and it just shifted, like she was trying to move a couch too heavy to lift. Her blows didn't break them, they just displaced them. Unless she committed to burying them, like something stashed deep in a woolly rabbit's nest, she was just wasting calories. And that made her scream. Not a scared scream, not a battle cry either. This was frustration. Her scream was personal. And the hammer responded. It cried. Not in pain, but in rage. It wept like a forge denied fire, like iron left unshaped, and then it changed. There was a flash, sharp and sudden like a memory of blue lightning, and the hammer was not the same. The leftmost head, it wasn't a hammer anymore. It had become hair, silken, black, and heavy, flipping between horizontal and vertical, never still, always shifting direction. And in between those shifts, a sharp axe. Every time you looked, it faced a different way, but you never caught it move. The center head remained stoic, unchanged, but the rightmost, a face, long nose, saw teeth, a smile too wide, too sharp, too pleased with itself. Like it had waited for this moment to be born. Kalm didn't hesitate. She spun, pivoted toward the grinning head, and brought it down. Crack! A clean hole, punched straight through the berserker ant's armored foot. It stumbled, not dead, but now it knew her name. Minutes later, in the center of the temple-like chamber, Glad had returned, sizzling slightly from whatever lightning she had bent around herself. She nodded at Kalm. Kalm nodded back. They took their positions, practice stances, knees low, arms out, weapons tilted inward. This wasn't freestyling anymore. This was the move, the one they'd only ever done in training, the one that left a crater when they got it right. The one Aunt Glad always said was probably illegal, and just before Kalm and Aunt Glad could launch their next move, a strange shift in energy rippled through the room. From the edge of the battle, barely noticed up until now, the ant with the broken wing fluttered forward in a jagged, gliding motion. It wasn't fast. It wasn't graceful. But it landed directly on top of another berserker ant, one of the larger ones. Without warning, the broken-winged ant reached down, grabbed the other by the back of the head, and yanked. The big one wobbled, once, twice, then it straightened up, perfectly still, nodded, and slowly turned around. Aunt Glad wasn't having it. She was flashing, literally, pulsing hysterically between flickers of light and shadow, bouncing off walls like someone who drank a gallon of lightning and still had questions. "You came in here to chase us?" she shrieked, laughing mid-bounce. "Where you going, huh?" Wrapped around her, coiled but chaotic, was Nada, the snake-leg creature, now nearly full length and practically hugging her like an overexcited pet. But Nada was hungry, and not just metaphysically. She was trying to bite the fast ant, lunging in sync with Glad's bouncing as if they were part of the same fever dream. It was during this absurd zigzag of chaos that Aunt Glad saw it. An opening. The deformed berserker ant, the one with the twisted armor and oversized limbs, was watching, amused, as his partner limped from a foot wound courtesy of Kalm's hammer. He found it funny. That was a mistake. Glad used all the momentum from her bouncing and twisted her body midair like a diver at the edge of glory, and stabbed a gleaming needle straight into her own heart. Thunk. A jolt surged through her, and she launched. Both legs hit. Dead center. The deformed berserker ant didn't even have time to react. Her knees cracked against its chest, and then thunder. Pop. Floop. Splash. Just like that, a Glad-sized hole right through him. He looked down, stunned. Both hands reached up to cover the new void in his chest. And then he fell. Backwards. Kalm blinked. "Hey, no fair," she muttered, then she grinned. Time for her move. She wrapped the shaft of her hammer around the back of her neck, twisted her torso like a winding spring, and threw. Not the whole hammer, just the axe head. It spun like a frisbee made of war, slicing side to side as it flew, flump. The last berserker ant, once fast, once whole, was now in two halves. "No more fasting," Kalm quipped under her breath. They stepped into position once more, both moving to the center of the room. They knew what came next. The move they'd practiced 100 times, the one that left a crater, a silence, a warning. But just as they were about to begin, the ant with the broken wing returned. It glided again, but this time silently, riding the backdraft from the chaos it had just survived. It landed gently on the head of the last remaining berserker, slumped briefly. Then, slowly, it straightened. It nodded again, this time directly at Kalm and Glad, and turned to face the same direction they were, shoulder to shoulder, ready. Glad smirked. "Well," she said with a sideways glance, "your grandpa did say it would seize the moment. You want to pick up?" It wasn't a fair fight. Not because Riot was weak, but because Grandpa knew him too well. And worse, he knew every wrestling move, even the illegal ones. And right now he wasn't holding back. Riot struggled, gritting his teeth, trying to get any leverage, but Grandpa Fury, shimmering with mirror light from his arms and whispering things that sounded like old war songs, was inside his head, literally, trying to wrestle his mind into submission. It was like grappling with your reflection, if your reflection also had a black belt in dirty tricks. Riot wasn't sure what to do. Let Grandpa win? Let him break his ribs? Let him kill him? But Grandpa wasn't killing him. Not really. He was going all out. Full body slams, reversal holds, pressure locks, but he hadn't touched his knives. Not once. And that made Riot hesitate. From behind them, the Queen's voice buzzed in a new frequency. No words, just this vibrating laughter, like an insect trying to chuckle. And then, crash. The doorway blew apart in a cloud of dust and fragmented shell. A berserker ant with half a wing came tumbling through, screaming in every frequency. Behind it? Aunt Glad, glowing like a bad decision at midnight, and Kalm, sprinting like the floor was lava. They charged into the room, but something was wrong. Halfway across, the ant started hissing. Its limbs seized. It frothed at the mouth, fell flat, and just as quickly, the half-winged one jumped off its back and glided around the Queen in tight circles, buzzing like a faulty neon sign. Nada didn't wait. The snake leg uncoiled, expanding around Grandpa Fury like a living rope, while Aunt Glad leapt and tackled Riot's shoulder, twisting him out from under Grandpa's grip. Grandpa went down, mostly hog-tied by Nada, still wriggling, still fighting, but contained for now. "Here," Glad yelled, tossing Riot something from her belt. A vial. He caught it. She pointed with her chin. "Use this on the pile of baking soda, and make him stand on a piece of wood or you'll get spark fried." Riot didn't ask questions. He splashed the vial onto the white powder heap, whoosh, an instant chemical surge, and shoved Grandpa's boot onto a wooden plank lying nearby. Boom. A blast of wind tossed him back, but he somersaulted through it, landed rough, rolled, and popped back up running. Now he was shoulder to shoulder with Kalm. No words, just momentum. They locked arms, spun. Momentum doubled, tripled, and with a massive heave, Riot launched her into the air like a spinning war top. Kalm hit the Queen's back with full force, axes and hammerheads already whirling. Her voice went from silent to savage. She brought the axe down through a crown plate, then a spike nose into what might have been a scent gland, then the hammer, and again and again. "Do you have any ears I can pierce?" she screamed, standing on the Queen's thorax like a punk concert banshee. It wasn't a question. It was a threat. Riot moved like a storm in a narrow hallway. He was slicing legs, ducking low, rolling through legs and limbs, dodging, pivoting, but always slicing. Every cut counted. Death by momentum. And above them, circling from one end of the battlefield to the other, the winged ant kept gliding in smooth arcs, never attacking, just watching, waiting. Aunt Glad stood slightly back from the chaos now, breathing hard, eyes locked on the Queen. Nada was ready too, uncoiled and tense, tail twitching like she'd been waiting her whole life to wrestle someone like Grandpa Fury. The Queen herself? She was still standing, but just barely. Each hit, each slice wasn't fatal on its own, but it was building. Paper cuts, 1,000 of them. Eventually, they would add up. But the question was, did they have time? And then, that feeling again. The shift in energy. Glad took a slow step back. She spoke, not loudly, not frantically, but just enough for the story to hear her. "Here we are again, what you might call an impasse." She shrugged, looking up. "Well, what if I decide to go a different direction? You gonna stop me?" A pause. Nothing. That's what I thought. But Aunt Glad knew she wasn't the only one watching anymore. This fight had gotten too big, too loud, and in this universe that meant eyes. Lots of them. She pulled out her spyglass, the one with lenses made from frozen nebula glass, and aimed it skyward past the smoke and the blood haze, past even the edge of the atmosphere. And she saw it. The wolf spider. Not just any one, the one. It made its ambush nests on the lip of black holes. It fed on energy, on aftermaths. And right now, it was watching. The queen ice ant would feed that spider for a long, long time. And right next to the spider's eye was something small, a little one, watching curiously. Aunt Glad smiled and pulled out a tiny handkerchief, waved it like a country granny at a Sunday parade. "Hey there, yeah, you," she grinned. "If you help us out and take her," she gestured at the queen, "we'll offer tributes in the future. Cross-planet promises, real cosmic-level pay-it-forward." The little one blinked, then slipped back into the darkness, and the world went black. Not quiet, not still, just dark. Furry arms, thick as planetary rings, emerged from nowhere and everywhere at once. They grabbed the queen in a single motion. Snap! Boom! No more queen. The battlefield went still. The winged ant walked forward without ceremony. As it did, its wings began to shed, sloughing off like cracked armor as it made its way to the balcony above. It reached down, picked up the crown, and claimed its place before the ant play. Meanwhile, on the far side of the room, Grandpa Fury and Nada were still wrestling. "Kalm!" Riot yelled, pointing. "Aren't you better now?" Grandpa growled, caught in a chokehold that somehow turned into a leglock. "No. This slippery Slytherin bastard pinned me and put me to sleep. Twice." Riot raised his hands. "Oh, Grandpa," Nada was just helping. Grandpa didn't look mad, though. In fact, he grinned, cheeks red from exertion and pride. "I'm not mad," he said through gritted teeth. "I'm looking forward to the challenge."